Oline, and regards to all who care and dare to listen. This is a little talk in the category of the humanities, which is a subject I've been reflecting on a lot lately. It's the 29th of May, 2022. The title of this talk and the theme of what I have to say is the synthesis of learning. Now, I consider that to be an auspicious phrase, a small, clear, elegant proposition. And I use the word auspicious with reference to the system of the Mahavidyas, which, as you know, is a metaphysical and religious and ritual system derived from southern India, which I incorporated into planetary Tantra when I formulated it in the year 2008. It's 14 years ago. And as a matter of fact, scholars translate the term of Sri Mahavidya, meaning the honored or venerable great wisdom, as auspicious wisdom. And auspicious is a beautiful word that refers to the beautiful fact of the presence of the wisdom goddess, and not only her presence, but the force of her presence and the awesome power of her presence in which you share. So those religious scholars say that a Shakta is someone who worships power. But I say it means someone who shares power with the source of power. And everything that comes through that connection, through that bond with the intelligence of the earth, and beyond that, the intelligence of the pleroma aeons, is auspicious. The synthesis of learning is the best way that I could express what you find in the humanities on Nemeta. Over the years, and let's say since September 2018, when Nemeta was founded, as I load content on the site, whether it be new and original or something that has been migrated from metahistory.org or any place else where I've completed certain work, I'm continually in a process of reformulating what I do. So that's one of the factors that you encounter on Nemeta, which may appear to be somewhat chaotic, and it is chaotic. It is creative chaos. When you step onto the campus of the school, you step into a realm of creative chaos. I do my best to organize it, but at the end of the day, the chaotic factor is always obvious. Novelty, innovation, metanoia, which means moving from one paradigm into another, moving from one perspective or framework into a better one. All of these factors are fluid and continually in process. So, regarding the humanities, just over the last few days, I've been doing some reorganization. I'll explain that briefly, and then I'll get to my point. Originally, the humanities was a vocation on Nemeta. Remember, there are 12 courses and 3 vocations. And they're called vocations because they're longer, and they require more of an intensive and long-term commitment. So the humanities was one of those vocations. So what I've done now is I've established Ideosophy as course 12, and I'm taking all the material that was on the humanities landing page and in the units and talks, and putting it into a block in Ideosophy. So I am subsuming, as the word goes, the content of the humanities to Ideosophy. And as I do so, I'm also changing the vocations. So what replaces humanities in the vocations now is Mandela Effect Decoded. Then there is Celestics. And then there is the third vocation, which is the Gaian Navigation Experiment, you see. And those are really long-term commitments for students who come into Nemeta. So that's the new look that I'm working on, if you can call it work, as I speak. And in the background of all that, my Rigpa is reflecting vividly upon what I mean when I say that the purpose of Nemeta is the recovery and restoration of the humanities. It will take you some time to register the dimensions of that claim. But one thing that I want to make clear as I explain the synthesis of learning is how you come to the humanities, how you meet them, how you approach them, and how you integrate them into your life in the special conditions for higher education that are provided by the school. As I made clear in the original course landing page for the humanities, I'm not an academic, and I'm not inviting you into an academic discipline. Also, I want you to be totally clear what it means to recover and restore the humanities. It doesn't mean to go back to the way that they were taught 100 years ago, or perhaps maybe even 50 years ago. How long has it been actually since some nefarious agents operating in the world drama decided to completely demolish the humanities, including the removal of them from academic curricula? Has it been 50 years? Certainly, I think from the 1950s and into the 60s, the effort to demolish the humanities was ramping up. So if you go back to the time when the humanities were taught, what do you see? Well, when I was in high school, in my first year, freshman year, I learned Latin. And if you consider what the humanities used to be, then you'll find that in the 19th century and coming forward into the 20th century, the teaching of the humanities was based on the literature and legacy in the Greek and Roman languages, the Greek and Latin languages. Therefore, it is something at the core of Western civilization, if I may use such a presumptuous term. And so if you study the humanities back then, in the good old days, then you would have read, possibly in the original Greek philosophy, and you would have certainly read the works of the great Greek tragic playwrights, such as Sophocles and Euripides, as well as the comic playwrights, such as Aristophanes. And you would have read probably in Latin, the works of the great Latin philosophers, and such as Cicero, who was initiated into the mysteries, and other characters of that genre, of that historical legacy, who are now completely lost. They have been plowed under into the enormous trash heap of modern education, which is like a landfill. And in addition to that, you would have had some training in philology. Now, philology is the comparative study of languages, and various other subjects, certainly literature. If you undertook to get a master or a PhD in the humanities, it would probably be likely that the subject of your dissertation would concern, say, the work of some Western author, poet, novelist, philosopher, who represents and embodies the spirit of the humanities, you see? And all of those studies in academia, which would have qualified you professionally to teach the humanities, would have been massive. They would have required a massive commitment. But when you come to the humanities in Nemeta, you don't face that kind of commitment at all. You see, Nemeta presents the synthesis of learning, the distillation. And so you don't have to cover all the ground. You couldn't possibly do it anyway. All the ground that was covered previously in the traditional routines of the study of the humanities. No.